finally somebody believes that we do something meaningful, enough to give us $43 million.
You can't just build a new YMCA building and then just be like, I won't put any specific examples in there, but we're going to do exactly what we were doing before. You've got to kind of go out there and be like, what's our Starlink? You know, what's going to get everyone in the country connected?
I think if they change the name from the Y, it'll never be the same.
If we look at the Treaty of Waitangi, she's the only one really working the partnership way.
We've had numerous legal threats, and then we got a legal letter the other day. What it feels like, they're trying to ruin us.
Most of these charities and most of these people doing great things aren't getting paid for a lot of those things.
What's at stake is literally the end of the YMCA.
Like many of the charitable organisations in New Zealand, the Christchurch YMCA has had its fair share of challenges in recent years. That is, until they were awarded $43 million as part of the government's post-COVID shovel-ready initiative. But would this fund be enough to change the outcomes the Y desperately needed?
When the board started to talk about what do we do with our piece of real estate post-quake, it turned into this sort of huge exercise of master planning and figuring out what we're going to do. But it was pretty evident to me right from the get-go that we would need an extreme amount of money to make any of it happen. So I had been battling for quite a few years to figure out where to get the money from. We had sort of gotten to a point where we just about had the money to do the refurbishment of the hotel, and we all went into lockdown, and then the bank changed their mind about providing finance for the hotel, thinking it was too risky. So I remember sitting in lockdown and just going... And then I see this thing about shovel-ready funding, and I thought, I've got to spare however many hours in lockdown, so I'll fill the form in, send it away. You don't really have a huge amount of hope in that. And when we got that funding, it was like finally somebody believes that we do something meaningful, enough to give us $43 million.
Kind of brings goosebumps.
10 years of just hand-to-mouth existing as an organisation since the earthquake. It's beyond words a game changer for our organisation.
Will be quite a noise.
The genesis behind the program was when COVID hit, Auckland Airport basically stopped all their major construction projects and the contractors were effectively laid off. And then throughout the sector this was happening. So the concern that we had was that this was going to impact the construction capacity and capability of the country. So we went to government and said, well, should we look at actually supporting the sector to get them through this period? Our job was to make sure that the projects that came up fitted the criteria. So, you know, being a vertical project, it obviously had supported good construction and employment, had strong public community benefits, and you could get the thing moving quite quickly.
That's weird.
We were seeing what we could do to make sure that we could maintain the economy as we came out of COVID, but we were also looking for community outcomes, things like this that would add to our communities, would make them better places. This is a piece of land that the Y has had for a very, very long time now. It's just so amazing that next to those heritage buildings of the Arts Centre, across the road from our Botanic Gardens, across the road from our hospital, down the road from our museum, that our community is a big part of that precinct, and I think it's absolutely wonderful.
Ground floor, it's all about the forest floor.
Sure.
The beginnings, the heart,
floor of the
where
forest.
people connect, the floor of the forest. We would walk through here. If you imagine you've got your buggy with your babies in it.
Yeah.
And this is our tree store.
Oh, it sounds so cheesy, but how many dreams are going to be made in there? Yeah.
And what's fun about it also is that there'll be little babies right through to 90-something-year-olds in the gym. You know, like every age, every culture, every demographic.
Yeah, and it's all going to happen in 5 months' time.
It's all going to be done in 5 months.
It's all going to be done in 5 months, yeah.
I think there are quite a few people who are looking at that piece of land and going, why don't you just build your YMCA in Brindwa or whatever? This has been said to me by the bank, it's been said to me by valuers, it's been said to me by a bunch of people, why don't you just sell that bit of land and then you can put a YMCA anywhere, because, you know, it's just a YMCA kind of attitude. And I just say, but you're missing the point. The point about this is about valuing the people who are on the fringes, valuing the people who are vulnerable, giving them a beautiful facility, showing them that they're important, showing them that they're part of the community, not just having only the privileged elite few in the fancy digs. The whole process of building it is about our brand. It's about actually telling all the people involved in the world and the rest of New Zealand and the rest of Christchurch that the YMCA does really meaningful stuff.
The interesting thing about the YMCA is the diversity of the users and the diversity of the functions that the YMCA provides to support the community. And the key challenge for us is within the funds that the YMCA has to maximise the benefit it can provide to its members and to the community it serves. So just like a commercial office building is driven by returns, this building is driven by returns as much. The returns are not financial, they're social.
I've told Carsten that he's not allowed to win an award. And so every time he starts talking about fancy stuff, I say, we're not trying to win an award here, Carsten. We're trying to build a building that works for people. We can't have the whatever special ceramic tile or whatever it might be, because if we get to the end of this project and we haven't quite finished and we need another million or 2 million or 5 million, there is no million or 2 million or 5 million.
The money is what we've got, and if we come over, then there is no project. And so that's quite a lot of pressure.
If we get to the end of this project and we haven't finished and we've still got work to do and I have to grovel to the bank again essentially to get more money or grovel to someone, then that is a massive fail. What's at stake is literally the end of the YMCA. Everyone assumes, because the Y is a global brand, that there's money for Africa, but like Coca-Cola, it's so big, everyone's heard of it, you guys must be dripping in money. There's also a lot of perception that we're funded by the government or often the city council. The reality is we're not. When I look at all our business units, they're all got a red number at the bottom. There's a whole bunch of things that run at massive losses at the Y, that if it weren't for Hotel Give running at a profit, we would have to can.
Hotel Give is one of the business units of the Christchurch Y. It is one of the few profitable ventures that the charity runs. Profits from the hotel go directly into supporting the other charitable efforts of the organisation. Without this income stream, the Y would cease to function.
This country operates on volunteering. I'm not saying we're a volunteer, we get paid, but on people who want to do good. And if you start not doing that, then your country becomes a place you don't really want to be in. Because those who are more vulnerable in society will deteriorate, will lose their purpose and their support in life. We're fortunate to be able to be more sustainable, or not having to rely on 100% donations, grants. How hard is that, by the way? If you're not cancer, children or animals, which I call the sexy charities. I'm not saying they have an easy time, they don't. They're competing for money like anyone. But if you're one of the other ones, the lesser known illnesses, it's hard work. So as a country and with government, we need to head towards finding a way of equipping businesses to be more inclusive.
Most of these charities and most of these people doing great things aren't getting paid for a lot of those things. But we need them. Because without it, we would have a lot less stuff for people to engage in and do cool things. So we need that.
We live in a capitalist society and that's what it is, that's the way we are. But just because we're capitalist doesn't mean we can't also have a system where there's actually enough for everybody. And often the people who earn, this is my observation, often people who earn a lot of money don't really understand that they could be part of the solution for the people. They just think the government needs to fix it. I don't think the government needs to fix everything. I think we can all fix it by being a little bit different about how we think about resources and money and all of that stuff. I mean, how much money does one person really need? If all the NGOs in New Zealand just stopped because we're exhausted and we're sick of doing everything for minimum wage and on the smell of an oily rag and having to fight for year on funding and didn't do what they do, your houses would get robbed more, there'd be more petty crime, there'd be more drug stuff going down in schools, there'd be so much more mental health issues, there'd be more suicide, there'd be more teenage pregnancies, there'd be so much more of all the things that we kind of worry about that are the problems. The NGOs are doing that work. And people don't understand that if they all just stopped, that would impact on the person who's got the flash car and working in the big company. It would impact in a really personal way.
Well, it's a spectrum, isn't it? You know, you've got the corporates at one end and the charities at the other, and Josie slap bang in the middle as more of a social enterprise model. And I think there'll always be a spectrum. There always needs to be a spectrum. It's just how do we make the spectrum slightly shorter? So there's a need for the corporate world to come further into the centre, but equally I think there's a responsibility from the charity sector to also come further to the centre, to stop constantly, hand out and actually start taking destiny into their own hands.
The new building, I think, will achieve a number of things. There are some commercial enterprises, I guess, inside that building, which, if they're successful, they will also contribute to our charitable outputs. They will also relieve the strain on our bank balance and create more financial sustainability for the long term.
After being awarded the Shovel Ready Fund, the difficult task of designing a multi-use building began. This was not just about returning financial opportunities. The new building needed to enrich the Christchurch community.
Not often do we work on a building that has theatre, fitness, dance, preschool, doctors, health, cafe, staff, education, so that's exciting for us. I think it's a bold design which is fitting with the YMCA culture.
On the ground floor there's going to be medical tenants, physios, then there's a dance studio, there's going to be really inspiring health and fitness. There's just going to be like meeting spaces for communities and everything, so there's a massive stakeholder group.
Little things like not putting a skateboard deterrent on a seat, which you would normally do, then lets people know that actually being themselves and using a space in their own way is encouraged rather than being excluded from a space.
We've got this beautiful cultural narrative which talks about the history of the land and in particular the history of Ngāi Tōriri and their people and how they used this part of Christchurch to fish and to harvest things. When the accommodation building was built, they actually found a Māori chief buried under the building. So there's some real significance to do with the land that really matters.
There's all sorts going on. There is so many spaces, and so you've got to get acoustics right because you can't have the toddler screaming when the theatre's going off. We say it's a box, but then the designers say it's like the most complicated box they've ever built.
Usually you've got an office building, it's all offices, it's the use is fairly standard, but when you've got theatre where they want the, isolated from the noise, but also next to that theatre you've got a gym, and gym's a fairly noisy place. It's also a place where the floors might bounce, so that's been a challenge, just the mixed use nature of the building.
With the construction of the building well underway, it was becoming obvious that this was no ordinary project.
As airy-fairy as it might sound, we believe in having values at the start of a project, and for us to connect with Josie and the YMCA to share those values is fantastic. They're thinking about the future, they're thinking about 2 generations ahead, and that's the super important thing, right? We're here for one lifetime, but there's more to follow with other people. So whatever you leave on this planet, it's important that the next generation or 2 can enjoy. Being aware of the traditional landowners of the country as well, and making sure we feed back into them. Also the people that have migrated to New Zealand and bring them in and take those things from different cultures and develop them into a great space.
From a technical standpoint, it's like a challenging build, but the fact that you can see that each space is unique also makes it really interesting for us.
I don't think there's anything like this in Christchurch. I think this kind of space and the thought and heart that's gone into it will be mind-blowing for everybody that lives here in Christchurch.
We were having a laugh about the idea of YMCA the other day, and it does take you back to its roots and sort of where it came from. And I think what Josie's doing is she's leading it through an evolution, and she's really put at the forefront youth first, and that's where I think it's going to really succeed.
The core of Raise Up is to empower and develop young leaders through the medium of event management. So getting young people passionate about running events in their community, for their peers, for their families, and getting out there and doing stuff.
I think it's really vital for the youth to get involved in the community and kind of have a say of what goes on.
It's a really big part of my life now, and I'm going to be able to use all this information that I'm gathering to then use it in my life later on.
The people, the coordinators, everyone who runs it have just made such a difference, and I didn't know that I could actually make a difference on other young people. They've just helped me see really who I am.
I'm really passionate about climate change, and I just want to be there to help enact change and make some progress towards it.
GoPool is a competition where we've brought down 40 kids from all over New Zealand, 20 for each week, and we've basically given them a real life scenario.
Set in Ōtautahi 2050, that's looking at sea level rise and just dealing with the consequences of that. And then they're going to create a tech solution to make life easier, whether it's for one person or for every person.
It's a good opportunity because it's outside the box thinking. It's not often that you're given a hypothetical situation, and it opens the opportunity to think creatively.
To face the flooding problem that we have, we want to make drones that have the capability to drop water purification tablets.
We're working on a small desalination chamber that can be rolled out on a house-by-house basis.
The leadership of the YMCA are innovative thinkers and the board, and I think they wanted to keep up with the moving world, I guess, and so creating the 4C Centre is the way to give young people resources that they wouldn't have otherwise.
I just use drawing as a way for me to zone out when I'm in a bad headspace. I reckon it's a good thing that, Christchurch has this space. Anyone can just go in here and let their mind run free and do whatever they want to do.
The Y is doing some really great work with youth, but that's not their only focus.
I'm a retired man, so I've got time to fill, and so this, I call it my commitment to longevity, and so far it's working.
Everybody seems to know everybody, and after every spin class we go for coffee, have a good social time, and probably spend more time drinking coffee than we do in the spin class.
The age difference really doesn't matter to me. Anyone could be in the gym when I walk in there, and I'd be able to stop and have a chat with anyone, and they'd be really open to it. Before I joined the YMCA, I don't think I just wasn't in a very good place mentally, and I just didn't really have any friends or anything. And coming to the gym gave me a place to kind of relax and let go. So I was getting the physical benefits, of course, but also the mental benefits were just next level.
It's not just physical health, it's mental health. With mental health being not quite right, the physical is not going to follow. So it's all one big picture at the end of the day, so we just got to make sure that we can look after as many people as we can.
I just do about half an hour on the treadmill.
Luke's a volunteer for the YMCA, and he helps us out on a Thursday morning till about 3 o'clock, right, Luke?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so he does all sorts of duties that we need. So, yeah, Luke's been a great help these last couple of years. So, yeah.
I used to go camps. I camps around Nui with the YMCA. And we go to fox, and we go for walks, and go kayaking.
Adventure.
Yes.
Yeah, great.
The camp at Wainui is well known by the people of Christchurch, with many young people having at least one primary school camp there. Its location allows for a truly special environment to be challenged and to grow.
All of our activities, we say that they're all challenged by choice. So every time we do something new, we try and encourage them to take that little extra step to get out of their comfort zone, just to kind of challenge themselves. And maybe they can do that out in the real world one time. Maybe go out of town by yourself sometime when you're older, or, try a new sport or something like that. And right out here in Wainui, it's like a first step in that excursion for them.
While the need for some things like the camp have remained relatively unchanged over the years, building a new city HQ was starting to make the leadership team question what the future of the organisation might look like.
Well, first of all, we surveyed some staff. We asked the staff some questions to sort of test our assumptions. I'm kind of a little bit nervous that this organisation is all about me, and that therefore I can kind of be a bit of a dictator and decide all sorts of things, and actually I just don't think that that's right to do. So we had surveyed the staff to get a bit of a vibe about that, and it was really fascinating because nearly all of the staff said, absolutely we should change the name. That was something that gave me a little bit more confidence to suggest to the board that we should consider it. There are 2 people on our board who have been there for a very, very long time, have spent their entire lives involved with the Y, much like myself, and I thought they're not going to like this. And they were probably the most in favour of a change, which really surprised me, and it really surprised them. They were like, I really am surprised that I feel this way, but now having listened to the feedback from people, it's really clear that we need to modernise. And then it was kind of like, well, we're about to open this brand new building. If we're going to change it, now's the time.
Wainui campsite, I felt was the best site in Christchurch, you know.
In some ways, one could look upon the YMCA as being a bit stale, a bit aged, I don't know. It's meant so much to so many people, and it's still cutting in new edges. But when you talk about a lame change, what right would I have at this stage? We made lots of changes. Change is okay. All I'm saying is just think it through carefully before you do it.
I think if they change the name from the Y, it'll never be the same.
No. It'll be a gobbledygook name and won't represent what the organisation is.
And the thing is that must be remembered here, we're 161 years old in Christchurch. We don't want to lose that identity.
We need something to hang on to keep our members. And if we abandon our name, we abandon the last thing that holds members to the YMCA.
By mid-2023, the decision to officially leave the Y had been made. It was now time to build a new central HQ and a new brand for the people of Christchurch.
Our name is not who we are, but if we change our name, we can sell who we are with so much less baggage, so much less preconceived ideas as to what we are or we aren't, which feels really disloyal to all my whole life that I've had with the Y, and it feels disloyal to my colleagues who run other Ys, and it feels disloyal to all the opportunities that I've been given because of this organisation. But it feels really loyal to the next bunch of people that are going to come in this door.
This is bigger than her. You know, Josie's the one that has a vision, but she's not doing this for Josie. She's doing this for the community, and she's doing this because she knows it's right and because she knows there's a need.
A couple of big things about the pros of a big brand refresh is it does allow you to set the type of identity that you want to be, and it allows people to engage with you in a different way, in a new, refreshed kind of approach.
It's a really good opportunity to actually educate people and actually come and see all the good things we do. But yes, you got history, which is also part of it. So you sort of have to connect the two a bit and find a smart way saying, okay, yes, to be relevant going forward, we have to make a few decisions and this is what it's going to be, but we will never forget where we come from.
From the start of the build, it was apparent that this project was a bit different. Only now were some of the early ideas starting to take shape.
We had a conversation about a particular aspect of the fit out of this building, which was going to be a timber veneer product. And I asked the question, why can't we have real wood? And was told that real wood was really difficult, expensive, there was all these issues and problems with it, and you couldn't really get it. And it dawned on me that actually we've got a plantation at Wainui, and why don't we use that wood? And it would be fair to say that the builder and the architect are both a bit nervous about using a product that is sight unseen and a bit unknown, and they don't really know when it's going to be ready or what it's going to look like. And so Stephen said to me, get them to come out to the camp and then they will understand.
Josie planted them when she was about 15 or 16 as a volunteer.
So in that period of time, 30 odd years, they've grown bloody ginormous. So that's one of the reasons Josie sort of was quite keen on it.
I think they're really excited about the real wood and the story around that they were growing at the YMCA and they're being milled at the YMCA. I think they're really into that idea.
The nature of this project, it's a community. We jump in a car and we go out to Wainui and see trees being milled, and we talk about it at every meeting, eucalyptus battens. It's a different project, but that's what I like.
I think in general they're quite into some of the other aspects which have been very heavily influenced by the kind of the kaupapa of the YMCA and what we want this building to look like and feel like at the end. For example, the big Flops mural that we're intending to put on one of the sheer walls, the map of New Zealand that we're making, some ideas around young people doing some of the aspects of the fit out. I think they're nervous about that, but I also think they get that that's part and parcel of how this building is not going to just be a building, it's going to be a real labour of love.
It started after our first visit to the 4C Centre. We met Clark.
He was telling us how he has a job for students to come work on the new YMCA building, and he was telling us how he wants window decals on the building.
They're taking a leap of faith and they see us as an experiment, and it feels like a very great honour to be a part of that experiment and to be the first school student ran business to do a job this big on such a big, well-known established company.
It's the pedagogy I use that I've kind of developed, which is a little bit backward from what maybe best practice teaching is, but in this case, we've got a ridiculously massive job that we just say, yeah, we're going to do, with 5 young people who have no idea how to do it. And then in a normal education environment, you scaffold up. So scaffolding is a big term in education. So you start here, you learn these little basics, up, like this. I kind of flip it a little bit. I prefer to be like, let's go. If those 5 follow through and do that building, I guarantee that they'll be so stoked that they'll come back for more.
Is connected in some way. The most important thing in my mind with this project in particular was making sure that the hearts and minds of the people that live the values of the organisation are won first and foremost, because they're the ones that deliver the community services and outreach and programs. And if they didn't believe in the narrative, it would literally just be like chucking a poster on the wall and it wouldn't show up in a meaningful way. And so I think that's what made this project really amazing. Josie is the CEO. As soon as we suggested to get a really diverse cohort of people in a room to do a series of workshops, she leapt at the opportunity to hear from others in her organisation. And I think the stories that came out of that were so powerful, and it really led to developing a brand that really resonates with a diverse amount of people.
After the second workshop we had is normally what the lady said is often people have the name first and then this, and then they build everything around it. Yeah, so I really like the process.
You can't just build a new YMCA building and then just be like, I won't put any specific examples in there, but we're going to do exactly what we were doing before. You've got to kind of go out there and be like, what's our styling? What's going to get everyone in the country connected? Maybe think that. And then do something really awesome and do a whole range of awesome things, and everyone's welcome.
This was tax-paying money that's made this happen, so we have to make sure it's really accessible for as many people as possible. And, even under Te Tiriti, that it's also equally available to iwi, to hapu, to whānau, so that we don't just carry on our colonial bloody white privilege like we have been doing for the last 160 years. It needs to somehow be changed up. This money we've had from the government is bigger than some of the iwi settlements. And that's outrageous. So what do we do when we've got that much privilege again? How do we make sure that it pays it forward? How do we make sure that it makes a big difference to as many people as possible?
Josie wanted to make sure she was recognising the work that all of the team were putting in to making this dream a reality.
I wanted to get them some sort of taonga as a symbolic representation of what they've given to our organisation. and always had in my mind that when we got to the end or near the end of the build that I would present that to the key people. And so I was saying to Clark, how can we make sure that we've got something like that for the end?
Clark obviously would have had a bit of a yarn to Josie about making some taonga, and then he got onto thinking, well, why can't we make taonga from the stones that are there on site?
I was blown away, to be honest, that Josie had the foresight to go pick up some stones from when this was a bare site. The level of premeditation makes it more special and more thoughtful, and obviously the uniqueness of the gift as well.
It was my first ever client gift. It was really special. It was like, almost had tears in my eyes.
So it's quite a significant project that quite a big team has been working on for quite some time now. And just to take home a little keepsake, it says you're always going to be forever connected to this space. And it's a little bit as to what Josie's doing, is trying to be that social connector.
Time to reveal the new brand to the world. But how would it be received?
I was sitting in the RCP boardroom after a PCG, and Josie's like, I've got something to tell you. And I was like, oh, okay, shit. It was a really awesome moment. It was like, that completely makes sense. I think it's a great move. I think it really emphasises what the mission is.
This was the sentiment that when we ran those workshops and supported by interviews with customers, the word kind kept coming through repeatedly to the point where it was like, this is a truth. We don't actually have to create a brand, because a brand is not the name or the colour palette. The brand is the experience that people have, and actually feeling welcomed and treated with respect and people being kind to you is absolutely the values they live. And so I love that Josie fully embraced that, and it's now the Kind Foundation.
We used to be the Young Men's Christian Association. That was one of the other reasons we changed to the Kind Foundation. But I think it does let people feel more accepted in the community and let people feel more accepted in what we stand for.
Changing the name opens it up to more what the mission is about. I think it's a great move. Absolutely time for the, so we've catering is almost freestanding with that.
It's not an ordinary project. We don't get to do these projects every day, especially when you're floating through the hotel and you go into the creative space. You can really see how they're going to appreciate the end product, and you're kind of brought into this community. It's a lifetime project now. It makes you appreciate it a lot more and buy into the story.
Having a relationship or connection with YMCA, and YMCA being able to give us beautiful, divine spaces or things for us to be able to heal the community, create with the community, is something we're truly grateful for. Josie, she's the only one really working the partnership way. If we look at the Treaty of Waitangi, down here in Christchurch, for an organisation that's run by non-Māori, she's really working the partnership.
Belonging to any well-known organisation can have its benefits, but it can also come with costly membership fees and limit how a chapter can adapt to the needs of its local community. Now that things were coming together with the building, the Kind Foundation faced a new challenge.
YMCA New Zealand being really, really difficult, making issue with every single little tiny Y that there is. Look at this.
Yeah.
We've covered up the Y. We've done this throughout our entire building because they're going to sue us if they see one. They've been really focused on our website. We just initially did a main clean and sort of made it Kind Foundation and made it quite obvious that we had changed and all the rest. And they have gone through our website with a fine-tooth comb over and over and over and keep sending us legal letters about, you've got to change it on this page and this page, and in this photo there's a Y logo in the distance and you've got to get rid of it and da-da-da-da. So we've ended up spending an enormous amount of time and resource going through every single last little thing on that website. We've had numerous legal threats, and then we got a legal letter the other day saying cease and desist using the Y brand, which we don't believe we are using the Y brand, and we're certainly making it pretty clear that we've moved on from the Y brand. Now the lawyers are dealing with it. I said to my board end of last week, I can't deal with this and get this building open. What it feels like, they're trying to ruin us.
With an opening date in sight, there was no turning back.
It's pretty tight, but we are literally moving in and getting set up at the same time that they're finishing, so it's all a bit chaotic over there, and it's not a little bit stressful, it's a lot stressful for the building company because we're opening on Monday, 20th, regardless. So we're all just being very nice to each other, we're all being very kind and very patient and staying friends. How are you?
Super Joe.
Last week?
Woohoo! Last 4 days. When Jaden first told me that I'd be involved in this project, I didn't know anything about the YMCA, and even growing up I wasn't involved in the YMCA, which is probably quite surprising after hearing that 1 in 3 kids in Christchurch are involved in it. And since I've become involved in it, you can see how far its arms have spread through the community. I think she's done a lot for raising awareness of what this particular branch of the YMCA Kind Foundation has done and is doing, which is awesome.
I think you need someone that actually is a bit creative, thinks outside the box. As a leader or as a CEO of the organization, sometimes you need to make decisions that are a bit bold, but you want to bring the organization forward. And if it wasn't for Josie, we wouldn't be having this building. You know, it's because of her determination and hard work that we actually got there.
She does do things on a slightly different level, and she does it with a certain amount of authority, but also with an overview to community, right? So that's what the Y, now the Kind Foundation, is all about. So the way she leads that, the way she drives that is it's pretty inspiring.
She's so genuine, and she's really strong. She knows what she wants. She won't take shit from anyone. But she is also she's really empathetic, she's really understanding. In construction it's quite like a hard, tough sort of industry, and she kind of reminds me that you don't have to be like that. You can actually be a nice person and still get what you want. So it's a really good reminder as a young female coming to the professional career I don't have to be like that.
I think leadership's service. Naturally, as humans, we tend to rest on the triangle being that way up. And so we're always looking for someone to give us some instruction, or we're always, who's the boss? You know, and it doesn't matter whether you're 1 or you're 101, that seems to be the standard default. Now, I think leadership's about how do you flip the triangle on its head a bit. So if you turn it the other way around, what is it you need to do to help everybody at the so-called bottom of the triangle be the best they can be and as successful as they can be? You can still lead, but you just flip the triangle up the other way.
Early on in my career, I decided to develop a PR around my leadership. What does that look like? What does it feel like? What does it mean I do and don't do? And for me, that is a no-ego kind of PR that I'd like to exhibit as a leader. A no-ego PR is absolutely about empathy. It is absolutely about listening. And it's absolutely about recognising that you don't have to have all the skills yourself. You just have to surround yourself by people who have the skills and enable them to be the best version of themselves.
You can have the heart of a charity and the head of a commercial. I think now's the perfect opportunity for more organisations, more business, more corporates to kind of understand that you can definitely do both, and I think we'd all be in a much better place.
Opening of Papa Hou here in Otatahi, a beautiful brand new building from the Kind Foundation. There's a beautiful vibe here. This is what it looks like. This is what Otatahi looks like. This is what it should look like. All together, a oneness.
It's really only been in the last week
that it's been a finished building. You know, up until about 7 days ago, there's been an awful lot happening, and it's a really nice space to be in.
I think it's really cool. Yeah, it's going to be such an amazing space for the people of Ōtautahi to use.
I'm impressed, yes. Yeah, I really am. I'm very pleased that it's happened. I still stumbled a wee bit over the naming, that's all. But I'm pleased that this has happened, and top marks to Josie for setting it alight.
What the Kind Foundation will become is for the future to tell. There will of course be other challenges to face, but the brand will come to life through the people who embrace the kaupapa. One thing can be assured: Kind is now a choice for everyone.
It's been a lot of change, but it's time to settle in and actually embrace this and just moving forward by making sure we get people in and we make the most of the facility. But not only this facility. Yes, this is a new building, but it's, in my mind, the name change is an opportunity for all the departments. We've done a campaign for the gym that was last year before we even opened these facilities. The 2 campaigns. One campaign was, we give you 2 months for free, or 1 month, whatever it was, and we hardly had any sign-ups. And then we did another campaign a few months later, and it was no special offering, come and join the gym, but the whole campaign was based on work out here and do good in the community, because with your money we put it back, and we signed up over 180 people. So that gives you an indication of how people take at the moment.
This place is fantastic. There's a little bit of me that kind of says it's kind of a little bit sad for the brand, but if we just think about values and making a difference to people on the ground, then it just enables more of the great work that they've always done here.
I don't think it's a lot's changed really, except that we've got a far superior gym with better equipment and very good staff. I think it's really good.
It's like the churches tell themselves that it's not a building, it's the people in it, and what you do with the people in it. And the building's only a kit of tools, isn't it? But this is a good kit of tools. All the time it's growing, and Josie calls it evolving, and of course it is, and it's got to.
If I was talking to George Williams today, the guy who founded the YMCA, I think that he would say, what's needed now? Josie, what does Christchurch need now? And Christchurch has been through this crazy change since the earthquakes, and we've modernised our city, and we've been through quite a lot. And I think George Williams would say to me that the most important thing that an organisation like this can do in modern day times right now is be as inclusive and as welcoming as possible, because that's what he was doing. He was taking the essentially disenfranchised young men and helping them to feel included in a community. And that's what this is about. That's all it's about. Success looks like more tātou katoa, that anyone feels like they can walk in here and be a part of it and doesn't feel that they aren't welcome or included in some way. That's the first thing. We need to be financially viable to continue to survive. But I think probably what success looks like in the bigger picture is that the Kind Foundation and the things that we do continuously evolve to serve our community here in Christchurch, and that we don't kind of get a bit too big for our boots and just keep on doing what we've always done, that we're always evolving and we're always listening to people and listening to the community, and we have the courage to shift and change depending on what's needed. We need to still do what George Williams did. It's about changing people's lives.